Thank you, Mr. Kelleher, and thank each of you. Appreciate all you have contributed, gentlemen. I'm going to start out with a broader question directed to all of you. And I appreciate that I think every one of you has referenced the need for a balanced and fair and transparent regulatory approach. I think we all recognize that that benefits all. A lot of discussion about where we are right now when it comes to energy policy and our infrastructure. On the one hand, you have you've got an effort, and it's very, very far over to one side, but it's an effort that would say we have to stop any and all use of fossil fuels altogether, kind of the keep it in the ground approach. On the other hand, you have a direction and approach that says we need to support our cleaner forms of energy, certainly making sure that energy is affordable. We have issues, as you have pointed out, Mr. Kelleher, clearly in the siting of new pipeline and infrastructure. What I'd like to hear from you is what are the issues or the inherent dangers, if you will, if we restrict through our regulatory process here pipeline development, either restricting it or slowing it down. I believe it was you, Mr. Hecker, that mentioned things like congestion costs. Mr. Murkowski, you recognize the environmental benefits that natural gas brings to us. But can you speak to the consequences if our infrastructure is not allowed to keep up with not only the demand, but the desire for affordable and clean and efficient energy sources? And I'll just start at this end and we'll go down the line.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First, I'd like to emphasize that we focus a lot on the generation of electricity. We shouldn't lose sight of the role of natural gas in basic industries, residential heating, and commercial. Generation from natural gas is utilized about a third of natural gas in the United States. Industrial sector uses far more. Residential is at about 17%, 13%, and commercial is at 17%. So for years, natural gas has served markets other than electric generation. It has external benefits to electric generation. When it was not as plentiful and not as low cost as it is today, we were the backup. We were the future for intermittent generation from renewable sources. Clearly, if we make gains on efficiency, that's the fifth fuel. But natural gas supports renewable development in the longer term. But right now, we are achieving significant reductions in emissions. But we are not here to compete with other fuels. The economic choices will make that result. Right now, you've got very low-cost natural gas. We've become an enemy to many because of the benefits of our technology and our capital formation, our production. We building pipelines do not cause the production. Production creates the need for the pipelines.
Let me try to keep everybody moving. Mr. Murkowski, I think it was you that said there was a symbiotic relationship between the natural gas and the renewables.
Yeah, so as everybody knows, you know, energy demand is not smooth over the course of the day or the course of the year, and if storage is a cheaper way of bridging that gap, as it is with natural gas, then storage is part of that. In electricity, storage is expensive. The cost is coming down, but when you have wind and solar that generate energy when they feel like it, you need backup. And You can cycle up natural gas-fired generation much more easily and, more importantly, safely than you can a baseload coal plant or a baseload nuclear plant. So that's the symbiotic relationship. There's also, there's a cannibalization effect going on. I mean, the lower cost of natural gas has made it more competitive in the electric power market, and so the coal plants that have been shutting down are shutting down because they have become the high-cost way of generating electricity. So the market has worked. In answer to your question, what's the impact if we don't build more gas pipelines or if we slow the infrastructure development? Again, as an investor in a commodity business, it always comes down to cost. And so, if the result is an allocation of capital or a use of resources that are less than optimal, then simply the costs will be higher. And the question is, from a policy statement, whether those costs are worth it. I think everybody here used the word predictable on the regulatory regime discussion more than once. I did not put them up to that. But the other cost here is the cost of financing. I was talking to one CEO recently who described a discussion with a staffer, I think, in the prior administration, and they were looking at pipeline tariffs and couldn't understand why they were so expensive because it couldn't possibly cost $3 or $4 a barrel, to move oil 1,500 miles. And he said, well, the cost is the cost of financing the steel in the ground. That 80% of the cost is the financing, the debt and equity that it takes to build that pipeline, not to spin the compressors and to employ the few people that are in the control rooms.
I'm almost a minute and a half over my time, and out of respect to my colleagues, I want to be able to turn to them, but know that Mr. Hecker and Mr. Kelleher, I'm coming back to you with that same question.